The burial. Little is known about the day and a half during which the mortal body of Jesus lay in Joseph's tomb. His body remained on the cross for about an hour after his death. The Jewish leaders intended to throw the body of Jesus into the open burial pits of Gehenna, as that was the place where the bodies of the crucified were normally taken. If this plan had been carried out, the Master's body would have fallen prey to wild animals. Meanwhile, Joseph of Arimathea, accompanied by Nicodemus, went to Pontius Pilate with the request to release Jesus' body to them so that it could be properly buried. It was not uncommon for friends of the crucified to offer bribes to the Roman authorities to obtain possession of a body. Joseph went to Pilate with a large sum of money in case it was necessary to pay for permission to take Jesus' body to a private tomb. However, it did not come to that. When Pilate heard their request, he quickly signed an order authorizing Joseph to take possession of the lifeless body of Jesus. By this time, the sandstorm had largely subsided. When Joseph and Nicodemus arrived at Golgotha, they saw that the soldiers were in the process of removing Jesus from the cross. Standing near these soldiers were some representatives of the Sanhedrin who had been tasked with ensuring that Jesus' body was not claimed by any of his followers. When Joseph presented Pilate's order regarding Jesus' body to the centurion, these Jews raised a commotion, shouting that the order was a forgery. In their fury, they attempted to seize Jesus' lifeless body by force. The Roman captain immediately intervened, having his soldiers drive the furious Jews back. Once order was restored, the centurion read Pilate's permit and checked it for authenticity. He then stepped aside, turned to Joseph, and said, "This body is yours. Do with it as you wish. My soldiers and I are here to ensure that no one interferes." Joseph and Nicodemus had previously decided to bury Jesus in Joseph's new family tomb, which had been carved out of a solid rock not far from Golgotha. No one had ever been laid in this tomb, and they thought it fitting that their master should rest there. Joseph truly believed that Jesus would rise from the dead, but Nicodemus was very doubtful of this. Around 4:30 p.m., the funeral procession for Jesus of Nazareth departed from Golgotha for Joseph's tomb. The body was wrapped in a linen cloth and carried by 4 men. They were followed by the women from Galilee, who watched everything closely. The men who carried Jesus' lifeless body to the tomb were Joseph, Nicodemus, the Apostle John, and the Roman captain. They carried the body into the tomb, a space of about 9 square meters, where they prepared the body for burial. Joseph and Nicodemus had brought large quantities of myrrh and aloe with which they anointed the body before wrapping it in very thin cloth. When the embalming was completed, they bound a cloth around his face, wrapped the body in a linen cloth, and reverently laid it in the tomb. After the body was placed in the tomb, the centurion summoned his soldiers to roll the stone, which served as the tomb's door, across the entrance. The soldiers then left with the bodies of the bandits for Gehenna. The others returned in sorrow to Jerusalem. Jesus' burial was conducted with considerable haste, because this was the day of preparation for the Passover, and also because the Sabbath was about to begin. The men hurried back to the city, but the women stayed near the tomb until it was completely dark. These women felt that Jesus had been embalmed too hastily and not properly laid to rest. They decided among themselves to return to Joseph's house to prepare spices and ointments during the Sabbath, and to return on Sunday morning to properly embalm Jesus' body for its rest in death. Besides David Zebedee and Joseph of Arimathea, very few of his followers truly believed or understood that he would rise from the tomb on the 3rd day. While Jesus' followers had not remembered his promise to rise from the tomb on the 3rd day, his enemies certainly did. The chief priests recalled that he had said he would rise from the dead. After the Passover meal, around midnight, a group of Jewish leaders gathered at the house of Caiaphas, where they discussed their fears regarding Jesus' claims that he would rise on the 3rd day. The meeting ended with a decision to have the tomb guarded. Early the next morning, they would formally request Pilate to place a Roman guard in front of the tomb. They did not believe in the resurrection, but they were afraid that a cult might arise if his followers moved the body and then began proclaiming that he had risen. When Pilate heard this request from the members of the Sanhedrin, he said, "I will give you a guard often soldiers. Go ahead and secure the tomb." Pilate issued an order, and 10 soldiers went to the tomb. The Sanhedrin representatives returned to the temple, selected 10 men from their own temple guard, and together they marched to the tomb. The soldiers and temple guards rolled a second stone in front of the tomb and sealed it in several places with Pilate's inscription, so that it could not be moved unnoticed. These 20 men divided the duties among themselves, with some standing guard while the others remained nearby in tents on standby. They maintained this routine until the hour of the resurrection.